Good morning, everybody. We're going to continue modifications on the 2022 ZX-10R, and we'll continue with the airbox installation. Before we do that, we're going to prep the bottom portion of the airbox by installing the plug where the pair valve hose connected. We no longer need that pushing out or sucking in air. So let's get to it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the plug that was provided by PSR and the block off plates, and we'll try to wiggle this thing on. See if I can warm it up here. And then we'll get that on there. All right, and then I'm going to take a zip tie that on. Cut that excess off. All right. This is ready now. So I'm going to set the camera up and we're going to go over to the motorcycle and get this position. Stand by. Now that we have the plug in the bottom of the airbox, we're going to prep the area where the bottom of the airbox is going to go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the steering damper. I just temporarily put it here so it wouldn't be swinging around and scratching everything. So let me go ahead and remove that. And then this plastic bracket goes on between the bracket that holds the steering damper and the frame. And then you'll notice on this side here, there's a little, wrap, and that's where this clutch cable is going to route, keep it in place. All right, so let me get this bolt out. And I got a rag here. I'm gonna go ahead and get that. Get that over. Try to get it over on this side here. Okay, cool. All right, and then I temporarily put the mounting bolt in for the airbox that goes right here. So and of course, when you take the airbox off, you're going to have to do the same thing I just did here in order to get access to this bolt. So let me set these off to the side. All right, I think I got everything ready. This is tricky because I got to make sure this stays in the right place, this stays in the right place, this stays in the right place, and then we got to connect this hose here and then this large hose in the back. Let me see if you're in the shot. Okay, you were in the shot, you got it. So let me grab the airbox, and then we're going to mount the airbox inside. And this is like my fourth take here on this because there's so much going on. But other than that, I've already made sure everything is tucked in where it needs to be tucked in. I got these routed and tucked in the way they need to be tucked in. And then what I did is for the pair valve solenoid, I went ahead and taped up the end, and I just kind of tucked it under here. All right, so what we got to do is this portion of the air box has to go in first before you can do anything. I tried installing the hoses on a dry fit earlier back here, and then I couldn't get the snout in there. So all you need to do is, you don't really have to get it seated in all the way. Just get it in position, and then we're going to go ahead and mount that larger hose first. And I got to go down here to get it. So let me bring you down. And we'll get that big hose. And we'll get it on this side. Now we got to get the clear hose in, which is right next to it. I'll get that moved over a little bit, and we'll get that. And that's as far as that's going to go. All right, now we got to get the clamp. Get that chest above the hump. There's a little ridge on that snout that comes out of there. There. Now, I'm going to give you a look, see a little closer. All right. So there's the clear hose right there. And then here is the large black hose. All right, I'll get you back on the stand. This is tricky here. So I got to get this down in there. Make sure those cables aren't. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching in, and I'm kind of pulling back, and I'm squishing that foam so that it's actually pressing up against the frame like it was intended. So it isn't like folded up. All right, seems solid. And of course that's going to interrupt the airflow too, so you want to make sure that, I just got to get this bottom left corner. Okay, that's in. Whew, looking good. All right, so we're gonna stop for a moment. I need to get my bag and tag for this portion of it, and then we'll continue the install. So stand by. We'll be right back. Now we're going to tighten the throttle bodies, the clamps for the throttle bodies, now that everything is seated properly. And if you look right here, you can see it's all seated properly. And I'm going to set you up right here so you can see the clamp bolts. And there it is right there. And I got these Allen wrenches with the rounded end. Hopefully I can get in there, but this is going to take a while. So let's see how that works. I'll record it. And if it takes longer than expected, then I'm going to go ahead and remove this this little retainer for the hose, for the fuel hose. All right, that gives me a little bit more room. Okay. We'll go ahead and get this tightened up here. I'm probably only going to get about a quarter to half turn on each. As you can see, this is going to take a while, so I'm not going to record tightening that up, but I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. I got the clamps tightened. You can see the clamp right here. That's the clamp. And then let me get on the other side. Now you can see the clamp. Clamp is right here and right here, and then that's the bolt, and there's the other bolt right there. That's a real tight fit. Now we're going to go ahead and install the top portion of the air box, but before we do that, there's a couple things we need to do. We're going to mount the bolt here, the mounting bolt for the bottom of the air box, and then we're going to remove the paper towels I got in there, make sure nothing fell in there, and then we're going to install the filter. So let's start off with the bolt. It's a long hex bolt here, and we're just going to go ahead and mount that on. And I'm just going to snug it up. I don't have to go crazy on it. I'm going to put the air filter in. It only goes in one way. I put a little PJ1 filter element juice on it. There's probably a million different ones out there, but this one I've been using forever for my K&N filters. And I just made sure it was clean, made sure there wasn't no excess on there. I don't want it blowing into the throttle bodies. I'm going to go ahead and remove paper towels. And I'm just looking in there and make sure something didn't fall in there. Okay. Looking good. All right, everything's in place, nothing's pinching. Okay. I went ahead and snapped in the fuel line hose, the retainer on the bottom of this bracket. There's a hole. I just punched that back in. I took it out earlier so I had a little more access to the clamp bolt for the throttle bodies. And that's pretty much it. Everything looks clean. All right. So we're going to go ahead and put the top on. And make sure it's seated. I'm going to take this harness here. I'm going to kind of feed it in there. Bend that out a little bit. Okay, that's in. All right, everything's connected. Nice, solid there. Looking good. Got 8 Phillips-head screws that go on. I'm going to go ahead and get them started so you know the location. And these two right here are not for mounting the top to the bottom. That's actually for a bracket, and we'll pick up on that in a minute as soon as I get these in there. But I wanted you to see where they all go so there's no doubt. And there's 8 of them total, and they're longer. The 2 that I was talking about here are shorter. You'll see that in a minute. And then the last one goes right in the center here. I'm just going to drop it in there. Good to go. All right, so give me a minute to tighten this up, and we'll commence to mounting the rest of this stuff on top of, on the sides of the airbox. So stand by, we'll be right back. And we're back. So I got the screws mounted, and what I did to make sure I didn't over tighten, it's almost hard to do that, is I made sure that the top and the bottom was sealed, and then the bottom of the screw head was flush. And then once you turn it just a little bit more, you'll see that it's seated, it's screwed down as far as it'll go, and that's it. As long as you got a nice seam all the way around, you should be good to go. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount the all the the electrical stuff. So we'll start with this right here. I'm just going to slide this on. And you see there's a little slot right here, and then there's a plate where that slot will fit into, and we're just going to get it in there nice and easy here, and just push it all the way down, and that's in. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to plug in the air sensor, and we'll get that installed there, and plug that air sensor in like so, and then we'll put this little thing here on it, push it on. This little foam pad here, that's on there. Okay, and then we will do this back bracket. Before I do it, I'm going to go ahead and tape off the end of, and I'm pretty sure this is the O2 sensor plug here. So of course we removed the cable from it. I'm going to go ahead and get some tape out, and we'll get that taped up just to keep any dirt from getting in it. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and mount the bracket here, and the bracket, I believe, mounts just like this right here. Yeah, we'll put it right there. All right, so that's there. That's nice and tight, snug. I'll put that down in there like that. And then we'll connect the fuel hose to the upper injectors. And I'm going to take out my plug. We're going to take out the plug out of the fuel hose, and then we're going to seat it. Getting this on, there's a little ridge on this hose that's going down, and this hose here has to go all the way in past that ridge so that this orange clip can catch it, and I really had to press it hard. All right, so now we're going to move to the other side, and we're going to put this bracket on. I mentioned earlier that there were two smaller screws, and the reason why I took the bracket off is it was a little hard to get to this screw here. So let me get what I need here, and we'll go over there and we'll install this bracket. So All right, so it's going to go on like this right here. Let's see, do I have that in the shot? Okay, cool. All right, so it only goes on one way, but you really need to keep this rubber flap on when you install the bracket. There's no other way to get this off unless you rip it. And, I don't want to rip it. So let me get a screw in there. Alright, and we'll get this bracket in. This screw in on the bracket. We're just going to get that nice and snug. And we'll get this one nice and snug. Okay. So that's it. All right, now we're going to mount these two relays here. And we'll just put it on there like so. Put that one on there. Okay, and we'll flap this over, and then we'll snap it shut with this little flap. There you go. All right, so the next thing is going to be the steering damper. Let's go ahead and get this mounted here. All right, so it's going to go in this direction here, and this is just kind of a cable stay for the clutch cable. All right, and it just kind of mounts just like this right here, and then the steering damper bracket goes on like so. Okay. And that all looks right. We got that going through the center, so I think that's the correct way. I don't think there's any problem there. It appears that it goes through the bottom. So, all right. We'll get these holes lined up, and we'll put these bolts in. So there's a tightening sequence, all right, and there was no torque spec setting on it. In the portion of the manual, it talks about steering. So like everything's moving okay. Pin babies down. A, B, A. I want it tight. Okay. Everything looks normal there. Nothing hitting. Looks great to me. All right. So I think that's it. So I gotta get hopping here. I gotta get this thing wrapped up. I gotta go over to Home Depot, get a tote, and I'm gonna put all the parts I took off, wrap it up real good, pack it in there, and put any associated nuts and bolts with it. But this is where we're at. We got the air box in, we got the pair valve done, we put the BMC air filter in, got all the connectors connected, tightened the throttle body bolts, you know, the clamp bolts, and got the steering damper installed. There were a couple things I wanted to point out on here. Again, you really got to force that up to get it past the rib portion of this nozzle, because without that, this clip isn't going to snap in. Made sure, you know, everything was seated and positioned where it needed to be, and made sure I routed these cables here, tucked that low foam piece in there. This snaps into the air box right here, and I turned it, and there's no binding anywhere, so that's the spot. That's the sweet spot for it. It just snaps in, and then route it through these little clips that are hanging out. I didn't see any other ones. Just a breather hose for the fuel tank. And then what I'll end up doing when we get to that point is I'll remove it from the canister and then just kind of drop it somewhere inconspicuously, and then hook that up. And then on this one here, this is just the overflow for the fuel tank. I believe that's what it is. It has to be, because this is going to the canister. No overflow fuel will go to that. So the overflow is on this side, and I just got to connect this, the fuel line here, and then precariously slide it in here without gouging the side of the tank. I can't think of anything else that might be of significance when it comes to getting this all together, other than just take your time, and if you have a service manual, that'll help. I actually went back and seen a couple videos of me uninstalling it to see if I'm doing it right. And then one other thing I almost thought I forgot was this plastic bracket, which serves as a purpose of routing the cable and then mounting that upper tank cowling on there. Yeah, it gets a little hairy, but once you get it together and you look at the hoses and their purpose, you can pretty much figure out what needs to go and what needs to stay, right? For instance, this breather hose for the fuel tank, it goes to the canister, but you definitely don't want your vapors coming out of the tank and then coming up inside your helmet. So we're just going to make sure it's in a good spot. We'll figure that out. But stuff like that, you just have to think about. Check out the manual, and of course go online, and hopefully the videos that I'm making here will make it so much easier for you. So what we're going to do next, we're not going to do the ECU. I just got the plastic cover just laying here. We are going to get into the rest of the emissions. All right, so we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this canister. We're going to get rid of the actuator. We're going to get rid of this right here. And then the associated hoses that go to it. All right, guys. Have a good one. Be safe.